funny you say that about investing in bad times. I've had a few of those moments myself where you're going against the trend, you get the pushback because the old line is, when there's blood on the street, invest. And I've followed that a couple of times, but there's also blood everywhere. You know, you have to have people around you going, are you sure about this? Like, I'm always pushing for people to consider the 10-year mortgages or the 10-year fixed mortgages, because we have this culture of get a 1-year fix, a 2-year fix. Oh, if you're really conservative, get a 5-year fix. But your mortgage for most people is your biggest expense. And if, you know, I'm talking to people 95 to 55, but on the earlier side of that, people then start having kids and families and their expenses burst. You go, okay, interest rates have been pretty low for a long time. But a lot of people don't know interest rates in the 80s were like 15 to 20%. And if you put that into a mortgage calculator now, you'd be killed. You know, it'd take most people completely out of where they're at. So yeah, it's interesting how you have to actually like see that bigger picture and know, oh no, the market goes up, but people haven't felt a downturn because there hasn't been a big one in a long time. So yeah, like you say, people come to the group and things are good, and that's interesting to see who'll still make it through.
It is, and you know, it's funny because even our COVID drop, you know, was so short-lived, and then it became again this kind of optimism. Russian invasion of Ukraine was pretty bleak for a while, but we forget, this is the other thing, you forget what it's like when it's bad. You know, I just went to New Zealand for 3 weeks, and they've been just coming out of a recession. Life hasn't been so promising there as it is in Ireland in terms of the economy, and you feel the strain when you talk to people about finances. They're really struggling, and in a way it felt a little bit kind of like a fish out of water, because life in Ireland has been, for most of us, and I don't say for everybody, I know it's not for everybody, but the majority of us, life has been pretty good, certainly compared to the dark old days of early 2010s and so on after the great financial crisis. So we've come out fairly well, but we forget just how hard it was. And we see it to be honest, we see it day-to-day interactions, right? Like there's traffic on the roads now that wasn't there. People are less friendly around the place. People have less time on their hands, all those sort of things, because we've got ourselves into a little bit of the rat race and you know, this good cycle, and we forget some of the way that it was. But look, it's one of these things that we need to keep in mind. But the other thing is we need to be relishing any sort of market correction. We need to be relishing and taking those opportunities. As I alluded to earlier, like the gold and silver thing, like that ship has sailed, right? Forget about that. You don't want to be chasing those sort of things. But if we see a correction in, say, index funds or global index funds, then that's a great time to be throwing money in. So it's a matter of continue to cost average in, but if we do see a correction, don't be afraid to throw some extra money in there as well.